Hi, I'm Bill Doherty, the host of Hands on Harwich. It's my pleasure to welcome the viewers to another, and what has become the first of, we hope, many series about telling people about what goes on in Harwich and how the folks in Harwich have wonderful people working for them to make the quality of life what it is. So with that, I want to introduce Amy Usowski, who is our
Conservation Administrator for the town.
Amy, one of the things that folks want to find out is how we got to have a Conservation Commission here in Harwich. I know that back in the day when I was in the dreaded private sector many years ago, before he just became the host of this program, there was a governor named Frank Sargent who was very concerned that development activity, as important as it is as a contribution to economic vitality of the state, be balanced against the importance of retaining the beauty that we have. So how did we get here?
Well, in 1978, the state enacted the Wetlands Protection Act, and along with that, each town had commissions that they developed of concerned citizens, people concerned with their environment, protecting natural resources such as this, the Bell's Neck Conservation Lands. And it's for the purpose of water quality protection, protection of wildlife, and protection basically of our quality of life.
Part of the quality of life is to understand who we share, not only the planet, but Harwich. We're looking at a wetland out here.
We are.
Yes, we are. What kind of creatures are in this wetland?
Well, this is the West Reservoir here in Harwich. Like I said, part of the now 265-acre Bell's Neck Conservation Lands.
All right.
This is a freshwater wetland. Across the street from us is actually the East Reservoir, which is a brackish wetland. But this is freshwater, so you have freshwater fish, freshwater animals, or animals that eat the freshwater fish or use the freshwater ecosystem. We have everything from snapping turtles, coyotes, fox, all kinds of freshwater fish, as I've mentioned, types of waterfowl, the osprey.
Oh,
I think
do we have an osprey nest someplace?
We do have an osprey nest here,
right.
And this time of year is pretty much when they come back. So lots of hawk in this area.
I've seen the hawk because whenever I take the back way to go down to Holy Trinity.
That's the osprey right there.
Oh.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Well, he heard, what's it? The wild bird heard our call. He wants to know that we still around. Well, that's very important. But what I was saying was, when I take that Lothrop Road to go to the back door to back way to Holy Trinity, when you come around that part of the wetland, you sometimes can see some hawks sort of swooping down after you get past the water tower.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, if there are indeed creatures here, that means you could tell us something about the cycle of life with regard to the interaction of the creatures that are predators, the creatures that are, let's say, prey.
Sure. Well, we have everything, from the teeny tiny up to, like I said, coyotes. So in here we have actually otter and raccoon that will go after the fish, as well as heron, osprey, as well as hawk that will go after the fish. We have small mice and voles and rabbits, which would be more prey for fox and coyote. We also have deer here.
Really? I hope you're not growing tulips, because I grew tulips in my yard, and the deer thought they were salad, and they would bite off the tops of them before I was able to get to them.
They think all the blueberry bushes I plant are salad too, so don't feel bad.
We have blueberry bushes here? Now, can people come down and pick blueberries?
Yes. So I'm going to share with you a little hidden secret here. Not so hidden anymore.
No, it's only going to be between the two of us.
Oh,
Nobody's watching,
okay.
right?
We have a lot of edible plants here. I'm actually, with the trust, typically lead a lot of edible and edible plant walks for the public.
Okay.
So we have blueberry, we have cranberry, we have teaberry, we have huckleberry.
Well, growing up, I ate a lot of huckleberry pie that was supposed to be blueberry pie, because my grandfather said, it don't make any difference, it's all going in the pie.
That's right.
So, but on the blueberries, he was very careful about swearing me to secrecy about where he had his blueberries hidden. We also used to pick up mustard grass, dandelions, and there's some other stuff. I don't know if we have poke salad here, but
we do have pokeweed. Yep.
You do have pokeweed, and let's see, what other kinds of edible plants do you have?
Actually, you probably ran the gamut here of
Okay.
what we have in the Bell's Neck. I'm not the expert on edible plants. It's a constant learning process here, and
If you ever had to wear a funny green suit and were in the Army, they make you eat stuff that you couldn't believe was edible. Are there any freshwater clams in here?
there are mussels, freshwater
Mussel,
mussels.
right.
Actually, the other day when I was walking on the other side of Bell's Neck near the herring run where the otter typically are, I did find evidence of freshwater mussels that the otter had just eaten. So
Okay. And actually, you can eat them. They're not very tasty, but you can eat them.
I haven't tried them.
Well, I wouldn't recommend them. That and I was subbing over at the Tech several years ago, and they were digging, and this kid pulls up an earthworm, and so he says, I think he was trying to make an impression on this girl that was was in the class with him in horticulture, and he says, "What would you give me if I eat the worm?" And the girl says, "I'll give you $5." And then the kid says, "Well, show me the money." Then he looks at me, and I think what he expected was that I would say, "You're not going to be able to do that." But when I was in the service, they made me eat a worm. So I said, "It's not going to kill him." So I said, "Well, if she gives you the money, you got to eat the worm." So he tossed it down.
You did it?
Oh yeah. Well, what I thought he did was I thought he threw it over his shoulder. Okay, but then he said, "I feel something moving in my stomach." But anyway, he survived, and he got the $5 from the girl. And of course, she was very impressed. So who knows what that might have led to?
You might have started a romance there.
Anything's possible. Anything's
All
possible.
over an earthworm.
All over an earthworm. Getting down to it. Okay, well, we've talked a little bit about the clarity of the water here. But when you mention brackish water, one of the things that we know in dealing with estuaries is that you need a certain amount of brackish content, particulate matter, in order to create an environment for what I would call the beginning of an estuary.
That's right.
Okay, now is it possible that this is connected to, let's say, the watershed that creates the estuary for the herring pond? Was it the herring?
This is.
Oh.
This is definitely part of the Herring River watershed. The river itself, the main channel, comes up to our fish ladder, which is on the other side of the West Reservoir here.
Okay.
But across from us is a finger of the East Reservoir, and that connects to the Herring River, so out all the way into Nantucket Sound. The Herring River is one of our major herring runs on Cape Cod. So it's very important. It's a very important piece of the puzzle.
I get very concerned when people look at, let's say, look at a lake or look at a pond. I live on Long Pond, and I'm very happy that it's clear. And I also, understand that vegetation that goes down to let's say a freshwater resource edge is helping, let's say, collect the nitrogen and collect and prevent that nitrogen from actually coming into the water and perhaps fouling it. But at the same time, if you're looking at brackish water content, you're concerned that although you can't see it, see to the bottom, it's an important thing to know that that's actually creating an environment that's nurturing and supportive of life.
Yeah, estuaries are very important for juvenile fisheries. So not only our herring use it, but juvenile flounder, cod.
Flounder?
Mm-hmm.
Wait a
Them
minute.
up in
Now,
Muddy Creek.
Flounder's a saltwater fish.
It is a saltwater fish.
What's
so
it doing? What's it doing in that stream?
in that brackish water?
Yeah.
Well, brackish means a combination of fresh and salt, and a lot of fish can tolerate a certain amount of fresh or salt water, depending on if they're a freshwater species or a saltwater species.
We have a lot of eels in our ponds, and
Yes.
and what I'm told is that the eel is quite a traveler. Now tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I can just tell you, I mean, we help the eel travel here
right.
in Harwich. We're real big on helping.
Passports for eels.
Not just herring up the herring run, but we actually have a eel ladder that goes up into Grassy Pond. So that outlet is actually into Saquatucket Harbor, going up Carding Mill Dam, or Carding Mill Brook, excuse me.
Okay.
Through the Bank Street Bogs Nature Preserve, which is owned by the Harwich Conservation Trust, and up into the Grassy Pond. So we help the herring, we help the eels.
Now, I've always been fascinated by the eel goes, what was it, down to the Sargasso Sea, down in South America?
Yep.
And then now it spawns there, right? Okay, and then after it spawns, does that eel come back?
I really can't talk about the eels too much.
Okay, all right.
Anyway.
Of course, my grandfather would say, congeal, it tastes pretty good, but that's another story. But they are kind of chewy, sort of like a giant, it was a clam neck. But everybody knows you're supposed to eat clams and oysters with bellies because that's what makes them taste good.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could say I was an eel expert, but
okay, well, nobody's perfect. Okay. Now we've talked a little bit about sort of the nuts and bolts of this particular conservation area.
Mm-hmm.
Are you connected to any of the others here in town?
Sure. Well, I mean, maybe I'll just take a little step back and talk about the role of the Conservation Department and the Conservation Commission here in Harwich. So our role here is multiple. The Conservation Department, as well as my 6-member, we're looking for one more, people, commission.
Very important, by the way.
Yes. So we're not only responsible for town-owned conservation lands such as Bell's Neck, but also the protection. Our jurisdiction is around the buffer zones, which is what we call the 100-foot strip around any wetland we have. And wetlands don't necessarily have to be wet. We have coastal dunes, we have coastal banks, salt marshes, fresh and saltwater ecosystems. So essentially the role of the Conservation Commission is to look at projects people want to do near wetlands and determine whether or not they meet the criteria of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. But we also have almost, about over 600 acres of conservation land in Harwich. And like I said, as of last year, this was 259, and as of this year, it's 265. We actually picked up another 6 acres on the Herring River.
Those are our tax dollars at work when we look at the land bank.
Right, exactly.
And when you go to town meeting and you have an opportunity to add to this wonderful resource, that it's not just putting land into conservation and then having it disappear out of use. It adds to the value of the access to protect what is so important here in Cape Cod.
Right.
As I'm fond of saying, we have to protect what we have and make wise choices for what we need.
And that's the point we're really at right now. Historically, Harwich has been very good at selecting very important pieces of land to protect. And now we're trying to manage those pieces. So all of our conservation lands, the larger ones, we do have parcels, select parcels that are an acre or two here or there. But most of our larger conservation lands, Bell's Neck, Thompson's Field, Isabel Smith Monomoy River Woodlands, just to name a few, all those are accessible for the public to use, and that was deemed very important if we're going to obtain these lands, because what better way to learn and care about nature than to go out and be in nature.
And since we live on Cape Cod and we have that wonderful opportunity to, because of the special place of where we live. Now, that brings up the question of that the viewers might have is, number one, how can they visit all of these? How can they make arrangements to come and see the place and also have some way of being informed about what is there?
Sure. Actually, the nonprofit land trust, the Harwich Conservation Trust in town, has a wonderful website, and they've graciously put a lot of our conservation lands, directions to them, history of acquisition, what you might be able to expect to see there, and definitely trail maps are on the Harwich Conservation Trust website.
Now, is that linked to the town website?
It's not currently, but it's something that we're looking to do.
Okay, so if somebody wants to access it, what is the, well, we can Google stuff. What would it be, the Harwich Land
Conservation Trust.
Okay, so if you Google or Yahoo it, you could, Harwich Conservation Trust.
And I think it's .org.
.org.
Yeah. So they have wonderful information on our Town of Harwich Conservation Department page. We also have lots of information about not only our conservation lands, but about things you can do at your own home to enhance wildlife, such as, the accepted Cape Cod native plant list, and also, what endangered species you might find here.
That doesn't include bitterroot and kudzu, right?
Yes, those wonderful natives, bittersweet.
Right. Yeah, that's so invasive and sort of takes over everything and kills all the lady slippers in my yard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, no, we have wonderful alternatives.
Well, I hope that everybody watching this should appreciate the fact that if you have a plant that's native to the region, it might just do a little bit better rather than introducing something, that isn't.
Exactly. And if people are concerned about, how the plant looks, if they want to use it for ornamentals, the list is so comprehensive. You're guaranteed to find something on there that you like.
So, and if they want to look that up, where would they go?
They would go to the Town of Harwich website and go to the Conservation Department page and go all the way to the bottom to the native Cape Cod native plant list. And that's put out by the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension.
Oh, Cape Cod Cooperative. I've heard of them. Bill Clark, good friend of mine.
Yes.
Yes, in another life, I actually, I think he worked for me, but that's another story for another time. And I know that Bill Clark also has a Master Gardener program
Yes.
that supports things, and people who have an interest in conservation certainly should be interested in how they can manage their own property to
That's right.
To grow flowers and vegetables and sort of enhance the quality of life that we have here.
Mm-hmm. Bill has also been, and the Cooperative Extension in general, we've received a lot of grants for managing our lands from Bill Clark. We have a land management grant currently for Bell's Neck Conservation Land, and it was to come up with a land management plan to prioritize what our priorities should be.
Well, one of the priorities that I hope you take a look at is that as land goes into conservation, while people tend to visit it, there's also that issue of that low-lying vegetation, for example, might grow up to create what might be called a little bit of a hazard with regard to fire. And one of the concerns that a land management plan should address, in my opinion, would be having significant fire breaks, so that in managing the land, we keep the conservation land that we've captured in play and available, and not create what might be a hazard for for the community.
A lot of times what we're finding now is our trail system acts as our trails in our conservation lands act as natural fire breaks.
Who's cleaning your trails?
I have so many volunteers, and I would love so many more.
Okay.
We have a trails committee.
So how can somebody become a volunteer?
Sure. Well, I'm not picky. If you want to volunteer with the town, please come see me or Heinz Prof, the Natural Resource Director. Sure. We have both the Trails Committee and the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission is a regulatory board. Trails Committee is not, but they advise the Conservation Commission what they think is proper practice in their conservation lands. They're really our trail stewards. Then we also have AmeriCorps Cape Cod, which I'm an alum of. And then,
yes, you are.
And currently we've had them multiple times, and I have them 2 more times coming up in April to do land management for me, or for the town, I should say, not for me.
Oh, by the way, they're having a graduation. I think it's sometime in July.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Every year. And other than that, the Harwich Conservation Trust and the town are really, really well partnered here. We have a lot of the same goals. We share a lot of the same volunteers. We put on a lot of the same programs. So really, you can go to any of those. You can go to the trust, you can come to the town. Please come and talk to me if you want to become more involved. We can find a fit for you. Not all the labor is intensely manual labor. So if you want to help the environment and help the town, please just come and talk to me. We'll find a good fit for you.
Well, I think that if you have enough hands to help, and that's what we're talking about, Hands on Harwich, is that many hands make light work.
That's right.
Now, I think we've more or less covered the waterfront, so to speak, with regard to the things that we're talking about. And this would be the time when, as far as wrapping up, is to think about what would be a takeaway that you would want folks to have about your operation.
I just want to encourage people to get out there and enjoy nature, and also to come and participate, be it in any capacity, really. We have, like I said, with the Trails Committee, very minimal commitment. With the Conservation Commission, a little bit more, but you can really have an impact on your community by participating on these boards and commissions.
Well, I would certainly agree with that, and I think the one thing that scares people is that they look at a commitment as being something that is, let's say, 1 hour forever.
Right.
And I don't think that we've been talking that way. So what would be the ideal commitment, and what would be a nice commitment?
Sure. Well, you can always just email me or call me and let me know that you're interested in getting an email or a phone call the next time I have a group volunteer activity that I need some hands for.
So in other words, be like a reserve corps.
Exactly. I
Okay,
do
now
have a
you
list of
mentioned
volunteers.
email. Now, how would somebody get a hold of you?
They would go to the Town of Harwich website, go to the Town Conservation Department page, and my email is right there. Again, my name is Amy Usowski. So there's a link to me right there. Just click on my name. You can send me an email with what your interests are, and I'd be happy to put you on a list.
What your interests are. So big or small.
Big or small.
Okay, so if you just wanted to, let's say pick up trash, you would
Yep.
have that. If you wanted to plant flowers, you could do that. If you wanted to clean trails, you could do that. If you wanted to,
Help me at the town garden.
at the town garden, have we got water down there yet?
We have a brand new water system as of last year.
Hear that,
There's
folks?
still plots left.
Plots left. You do not have to starve in Harwich. We could be self-sustaining. We have the ability, and under the guidance of
The Conservation Department.
All right. Okay. Now, so we want participation.
We do.
Okay. We want people to know that we're there.
Yep.
Okay. And that and I think we've given that lead in as far as that part of it goes. So at this point, this is the point when you look into the camera and you say, I want you to be part of my organization.
I want you, citizens of Harwich, to come and talk to me to see how you can become involved in the conservation effort here in Harwich.
So with that, I want to thank the viewers for spending some time with us to find out more about this very important hands-on Harwich activity of the Conservation Commission, and that there's spots available, and that the only excuse you can give is that you have something more important to do. And what is more important than making sure that the special place that we live in, Harwich, stays the special place that it is? And it'll only happen if all of us, big, small, young, old, take the opportunity to help all of us out. So with that, I want to thank the viewers for watching this edition of Hands on Harwich.
Thank you.